program. The program is responding to the federal laws that say that we do have to meter facilities, and the EPAC 2005, and we have an exord that was issued by AXIM that sets us up as the central manager for the program and lays out what the program elements are, and that's what we're going to discuss in this webinar. The metering program deals not only with Army meters, but on a reimbursable basis from other customers. And the program is going to be in place in terms of the install of the metering systems through FY18 and beyond because of changes to the requirements that have happened since the program started. The Huntsville Center is organized to manage the metering program. Project management, the division chief is Daryl Anderton. I am the chief of the metering project management branch. I have two program managers currently, Jason Adams and Portia Porter. There are also on the project management team several project managers who some of you may have dealt with, project management specialists, and we also have a program data analyst. Our contracting group is co-located with us, and the contracting officer is Wanda Hampton. Engineering, and the engineering folks are the folks that interface at the installation sites. The engineers work for Mitch Duke. They actually handle the work plans and the oversight of the metering. There is also an MCX, which is a part of the UNCS MCX, that helps to define the technical requirements, including requirements for the configuration of the computer systems. We'll talk more about that later. We also have other elements of the team, and a key part of that is our safety office. We do have the safety plans in place prior to starting any work at the installation level. The mission of the program is to meter the facility energy and water use and incorporate this data into energy monitoring systems for the purpose of reporting, for accountability and energy management. The tasks under the exorder are to develop and maintain meter standards, which we have, and they are published in several locations. Meter the buildings for utilities as cost effective and provide the data management capability, sub-meter for tenants and operations. Chair or participate in key working groups across the Army. Develop and maintain a database of all Army programs that have meters or install meters, and ensure that the Army metering systems planned and installed by other than the Army meter program conform to technical direction and guidance of the Army meter program, including the computer systems installed and their configuration. The first task, of course, is to develop and maintain meter standards. The meter standard, if you might not have looked at it lately, was updated on 8 June. It's stored on the UMCX MCX website, which is connected to the Huntsville Center homepage. But we do have it ready to go on EKO when EKO comes back up. And it is also on the Sustainability and Energy metering webpage. And some of you may have seen that there. We have an ECB that is in development that will also issue that guidance. Okay, the task to meter the buildings for the utilities as cost effective and to provide the data management capability. The criteria for that is 29,000 square feet is a Tier 1 facility. And that that is Army criteria. A secondary criteria, which is really the primary criteria, is $34,000 a year in energy cost. That is DoD criteria. The baseline for Tier 1 facilities was 12,200 electric meters, which is divided as shown here. And the added missions for the National Guard and for AMC brought that up, as well as changed site conditions on the original locations. Now we're at about 14,500 electrical meters that will be installed for the Tier 1 facilities when that is finished at the end of this fiscal year. What the meter system looks like is you have multiple utility meters, a gas meter, a gas pulse kit that would fit on an existing meter, a water pulse kit which would fit on an existing water meter, and or electric meter, any combination of those. All of those meters would feed into a building point of connection, or a building level controller, as it's sometimes called. It's sometimes called a building automation controller as well. But all of these terms are interchangeable, and they all represent the device that will collect the meter data from multiple meters and will feed it forward to the front-end server, where the data is able to be displayed and then forwarded on to an Army enterprise reporting system. The building point of connection is an IA, an information assurance device. It has information assurance functionality, as does the advanced electrical meters that we use. Because of that, they have to be tested for IA security, and as well as the configuration of the front-end server. This is why we have to have an accredited system, is to make sure that all of these are safe from an information assurance standpoint, to report forward to the Army backbone, which is where the MDMS, the Meter Data Management System, resides. Depending on the server system that is installed at the installation, there will be some level of reporting. There's always some level of reporting, but the actual number of reports and type of reports that are available may vary. There are standard reports that are available from the MDMS location. And if I don't have the briefing for the MDMS, it's a big part of this presentation, but if you have any questions about it, we definitely can answer those. The architecture of the metering system is shown here. The metering system has, the acronym for it is the EATERS, which stands for Energy Enterprise Data Reporting System, not to be confused with the enterprise level meter data management system. Excuse me. So we're kind of going away from the use of that terminology at times. But basically, your architecture includes any of your metering devices, a building point of connection, various switches that then send the information back along the net backbone at an installation to a head-end server. We do have some situations, a very few situations, where wireless along the net backbone is approved. And right now, the meter system, the Army meter system, is on a VLAN, an isolated VLAN for the metering system. I think it's VLAN 124. And that, even though the NEC is responsible, it's actually an isolated system, not tied directly into the installation's network. Okay, the second what's related to metering the buildings is the point of connection that I discussed, and I've showed how that fits into the overall system. It collects meter data from a variety of types of meters and even multiple meters of the same type at a facility. Okay, the process that we're using to accredit the systems is that for a type accreditation. We have, and there's more about this later, but I just kind of wanted to introduce this at this time. We have 6 configurations that have been approved and that have been tested for IA functionality, IA security. And so we also have tested multiple meters that are installed by the Army meter program and building points of connection. From all of these tested components, we have prepared common documents, common process documents that deal with such things as configuration management, patch management, audit processes, and similar things that were going to be done the same way across each of the 6 configurations. Then the process that we have just started this week is to test a system and on the bench, and that system is comprised of a meter, a building point of connection, and a server. And all of the meters that have been tested and all of the building points of connection that have been tested are going to be included in families of documents, families of meters and families of building points of connection, which means they all have the same IA functionality and the same IA security that has been tested. And all of that goes together to be a type accreditation. And so we submit the documentation and the test results and all of the supporting IA and IT documents that go with that, such as a POAM and scorecard, etc. And we submit that for authority to operate. During this process, we did not want to be held up with installing our computer systems, and so we were given interim authorities to operate. And there is more information on that I'll talk about later. The process used for the accreditation process, the routing that it does and the tasks that happen is the DIACAP process. There are no deviations from it that we're requesting. Still under the task to meter the buildings, it is again what I've mentioned about the accreditation of the server systems, the family of meters. For each installation where we just install a server system, a server with a metering system, we will have a deployment package. And that package will include all the common documents as well as any installation-specific documents that are needed to bring that system onto the reporting through the installation network, not a part of the network, but able to be brought on through the installations processes and the installations ATO. And those deployment packages will be used to field the system. After the system is fielded, we'll be conducting a risk assessment for each server installed. We're expecting this to be a very, very easy process with very few deviations from the accreditation, and what the deviations that there are the types of things that can be accepted through the configuration management process. There are other systems out there that were not installed by the Army meter program that may not be and are not in many cases a system that is configured or is even one of the 6 systems that we're using. We'll be doing risk assessments on those systems also starting after the first of the year, and we'll have to make decisions jointly about the path forward for those systems. In some cases, it may be relatively easy to upgrade the configuration, upgrade the software, maybe even slight changes to the hardware to bring them into the accreditation, again through the configuration management process. In other cases, we may have to have a major upgrade to certain components or pieces of the system. And there will be some cases where we will determine it's just not feasible to bring it under the accreditation boundaries, and we will either have to replace the system now or wait until the end of the useful life of the system and bring it up. Not being able to attach it to the Army network again will prevent the data from that system's meters being able to be seen at the MDMS level and viewed by the energy managers and by Army managers across the enterprise, across the Army. Okay, as I said, we have 6 systems. The goal is to have all the systems be open systems, which means that they can talk to anything. They're very easy to work with. They're very easy to make changes to. Right now, only 2 of those are open systems. Our plan is to get the ATOs on the systems as they are approved, but eventually seek accreditation of variations of the systems that are non-proprietary for those 4 that are. The organization that is performing the information assurance testing for us and that has prepared the documentation for the common documents for us is IASCD. We have weekly phone calls with IASCD, with NetCom, with AXIM, and supporting organizations at the programmatic level to make sure that we are moving as quickly as possible for the processing of the IATOs, the cons, and any other issues, and then when the ATO documentation is submitted, that also is moving as quickly as possible. We also will be reinitiating our weekly fielding calls that some of you may have participated in when we were getting ready to install some of our INET servers. Those were suspended for a few weeks because of a complication with the cons, but we're now ready to go back on board with those. The schedule for the connectivity, here I've shown the IATO. We have IATOs, which is interim authorities to operate, for 4 systems. The 5th system, and this is in order, the 5th system is at IACORA to start the process for the IATO. The 6th system, we've had difficulty getting the correct documentation needed from the contractor, and at this point we are likely to just go for an ATO. The ATO accreditation process, it takes about 7 weeks at the IASCD level for the certifier to review all the documentation, to verify the system does what it's supposed to do, and to define what the risks are. That accreditation process will start the week of December the 2nd for configuration number 1. And every 7 weeks after that, we will start the accreditation process for the ATOs for the other systems. Okay, as I mentioned earlier several times, that the ultimate goal from an Army standpoint for reporting is to have the information available at an enterprise level system. That system does have multiple methods of displaying the data and storing data for historical use as well as for current situations. The MDMS system is managed by John Trudell. Some of you may be familiar with him, as he, early in the process, helped support our IA process for the metering. Okay, I've already talked about evaluating the legacy systems for upgrade or replacement and some of the questions that will be faced. And by the way, on these legacy systems, we'll have at least 2 courses of action to replace components or even replace servers. One could be to be put in the queue for Army funding for most systems, or 2, it might be to go ahead and make those changes with customer funding from the installation or from a tenant in some cases, and that might be able to allow them to talk to MDMS faster. We expect to be finished with the Tier 1 electrical metering by the end of FY13. We are starting up the Tier 2 buildings this FY. And those are the lower priority buildings, the smaller buildings, the less energy use buildings. There is criteria developed for how we select those facilities, and it is in the implementation plan for the Army meter program. That criteria is under review by ACSIM, and it may be modified before we end up with a final list of what will be a Tier 2 building. In addition to the lower priority buildings, the Tier 2 process will include a lot of the submetering for tenants, such as data centers, submetering for simulators, and also we may go back and look at facilities that were Tier 2 or not that heavy users when we started the program that have become a lot larger thing. So we'll go back and look at the original list of buildings as well. Additionally, we will begin to start metering for other utilities such as gas, steam, and water. We'll start the surveys this year, and we do plan to get some of the meters under contract by the end of the fiscal year. Maybe not a whole lot actually installed, but at least under contract. The reason that we did not do the surveys for all the utility at one time was simply a funding issue. The primary mandate was to meter the electrical meters, and given the funds that were available through ACSIM, the decisions were made by ACSIM to simply focus on the electricity first and then come back and survey and meter the other utilities. So when we do the surveys, there will be one survey for the remaining utilities, not multiple surveys. Additionally, we are to chair and participate in key working groups. Right now, the working groups that are ongoing are the Information Assurance Working Group that I mentioned earlier that we have the weekly calls with, that includes NetCom, ACSIM, IASED, and Huntsville primarily. Then we have a metering working group that is at this point informal. There is an op order that headquarters USACE is preparing to issue that will provide some additional guidance on the metering working group. But that is also a command level group that would also include Army commands such as MedCom and it would include NetCom, that type of thing, TRADOC, Reserve, U.S. Army Reserves, etc. Additionally, we have the working group at the local level that is charged with evaluating changes to the baseline configurations for consideration for acceptance under the configuration management process. And we also have the weekly fielding working groups that are at the 7th, the 5th, and the 311th level, and also include the brigades at NetCom, the installations, and the metering contractors. Those will be starting back up within the next couple of weeks as we start to get back in the process of fielding these servers. What we are working on to pull everything together is the implementation plan. A big part of that will be the deployment package for the EATERS system or the metering system servers. But we envision having an annex for each meter system that is at an installation. It'll also include information about the buildings that are a part of the installation network, they're connected to the installation network, and those that are not. And it will include cost estimates and a path forward for how we might get those buildings connected to the network, either through wireless application or installing fiber optics, or simply just choosing to not have that building connected at this time. The database of all the meter systems will be maintained on EKO when it comes back up. A part of our responsibility is to make sure that any metering system that is put in by others for Army installations and Army projects, that it conforms to the technical direction of the Army metering program. That is, all meters installed should be one of the types that meet the meter spec, and for the fastest connectivity to the Army network, one of the ones that have been tested by IASED or by others, such as something that is on the Army approved products list. If it is not a tested component, and it has I/O functionality, it will have to be tested before it can be brought into the configuration of the ATO. I mentioned the op order that is to be issued, and this will impact MILCON projects significantly through the districts. As some of the other systems that are included would be ESPC, privatized utilities, any number of systems that do metering. Eventually it is to include any type of renewable projects where energy is created and put back in the installation to offset the energy use of the installation. Anything that is metered is supposed to conform to the requirements that have been approved for metering for the Army, so that they can tie into the Army network. Again, the configuration management process and a few of the common documents for the configurations, the ATO process, will be published on EKO and on the Sustainability and Energy Metering website. Not all the documents will be. Some of them are sensitive, and those will be available, but they will be kept under a little more secure conditions. When a new system is planned, including a MILCON complex, for example, those systems are required to be submitted for review by the Army Configuration Management Working Group, which is the Army Central Meter Program Work Group here in Huntsville that I mentioned earlier, and will need to be approved by the CCB, the metering CCB. Additional to the XORD responsibilities that the Army Central Meter Program has, we are established as a sustainability and energy center of expertise. And as such, we're responsible for making sure that you have the information you need to be able to effectively execute any metering related system or application. As such, we have identified some webinars like the one that we're doing now that we will be giving over the next few months and over the next year or two. MDMS does have their own series of webinars that they have been doing, and they may do their own webinars. We also publish guidance. I know there has been a concern about smart meters, and there was an article that we published in the Public Works Digest that just came out that explains how the Army's doing metering and why the smart meter concern is not an impact for Army systems. Where are we on the program? Just to recap some of the things that I've said, we have an initial IATO for 4 of the 6 systems, with the 5th IATO under review. It's actually the IACORA. We thought it would be to NetCom by now, but it's still IACORA. We do expect the ATOs for the 6 systems to be in place by the end of FY13. The first system, the JCI system, which is Metasys, that first configuration, we expect the ATO in March, and then the other systems following every few weeks through September. Meter execution, 82% of the baseline electric meters are installed, and very few of the other utilities are installed on Army installations per the guidance that we have had to date. Other utilities and tenant facilities are beginning this at FY. And as again to recap, legacy systems risk assessments begin in January. From a programmatic standpoint, the site plans are going to be a big key for us this year, and we're going to be needing help, of course, from each installation and those connected to the installations to make sure that we accurately capture what systems are there, what systems are planned, and how these systems will be maintained over their life cycle. The risk assessments are going to be a big priority from a programmatic level this year, and then configuration management to bring as many components and as many systems under the ATOs as possible. Okay, the training I've already talked about. It is also a requirement in the XORD that we do export training and support the community, Army community, with metering information. So we do look forward to hearing from you with any of your questions. Additionally, we do metering for other customers that would like to get a head start on their metering or need a little help in addition to the Army installations. Based on the POM for this year, this is what we expect to get under contract. We still have quite a few meters left to do, both from sub-metering of facilities and operations, as well as the OCONUS meters that are going in this fiscal year. And we'll start on the other utility meters. And we will start, and I do have a couple of slides on operational type facilities that we have pilots on right now. And then we will start getting those computer systems installed and get them reporting to MDMS on a much larger scale. Okay, one of the pilots that we have going on is for metering simulators. And the reason it's a pilot, the Army wants to truly understand the energy usage and whether or not it is feasible and cost-effective to separate out that energy usage Army-wide. We expect to complete the pilot in April, and there is a list of the simulators that are right now the ones that are identified to be metered under the pilot. In addition to the simulator pilot, we have a pilot for Army data centers, and that pilot is expected to be complete by September of 2013. And those are the locations that are identified for the pilot. Okay, that is the metering program overview in a nutshell. So now the question is, how can we help? If you have a question, you can type it in the Q&A portal, or you can raise your hand.
Okay, Alicia, we've got one question that just came in. I just assigned it to you, so you should see it.
Okay. Haven't seen it yet. Maybe I'll...
Make sure you're on present.
Here it is. Okay. I am. I see it here. All right. What is the name of the MDMS? Are individual states or units allowed to use an MDMS of their choosing, different from USACE? For example, can I use Periscope on my facilities? Okay, the name of the MDMS is the Metering Data Management System. That is the enterprise system the Army has chosen for reporting of meter data across all meter systems. Individual states, and I'm not sure where we're coming from there, if we're talking about Army Reserves, there is an additional plan for Army Reserves, but that is also planned to go through MDMS. And so Periscope would not be allowable at the enterprise level. It could be possible at the installation level, but it would never be able to, at this point, be able to report forward to MDMS if it is not accredited, part of an accredited system. Anybody else with a question that I could answer?
Okay, seeing none, maybe we'll hang out for just a few more minutes. I want to thank everybody for logging in today.